And keep watching to the end, because I want to tell you about a really brilliant new tool that you may not have heard about for helping you to plan your trips.
Sue T asks, how do you get your inspiration when planning the next full-length adventure, and how much time does it take to organise?
You should answer that, because you do all the planning, don't you?
Well, for inspiration, we just we each say where we fancy going, don't we? And
sometimes we've got no inspiration at all. Yeah.
And then we'll just decide on where we want to go. For planning, well, we're doing a lot less planning now than I used to, but generally I'll look up, just look on Google and look up where we're going and look at, the 10 best things to do in the area and research them and see if it's where we want to go.
If you plan too much, particularly in a camper van, you're actually denying yourself the ability to go off the beaten path, because you can plan as much as you possibly could. You still wouldn't know more than 5% of the things there are actually there to see. And as you're driving along the road and you see a sign that's taking you in the opposite direction and it's interesting, you've got a choice then, haven't you? Abandon all the work you've put into your plans and go and look at that, which you probably wouldn't. You would probably doggedly stick to your plan.
Yeah.
Particularly if, the only time to plan, I think, is when you have to be at a certain point at a certain time, i.e. to catch a ferry.
Yeah.
And I don't like a schedule. It's great that we know you do the planning and you know what's in the area. But that really could be done the night before, couldn't it?
Yeah.
By a quick, internet check.
Yeah. So I did a rough plan for Norway just based on where places we wanted to go, marked them on the map and then plotted a rough route. So we had a rough idea of how long it would take to drive between places.
Yeah, that was the main reason. And about fuel stops.
And where to get fuel.
We weren't sure how often we'd be able to get fuel.
And then knowing what days attractions were open. If they're not open every day, then you've got to gauge, well, what day am I going to be there, which does sway things a bit. But you have got to be able to be flexible, so that if you do spot something else that isn't in your plan, you can still go off and do that.
But there have been times in the past where you've done a lot of planning.
Yes.
And it's just gone straight out the window.
Yeah. And then I get frustrated when we're not sticking to it. And when I've done all that work and then we're not going to places. And then we haven't got enough time at the end of the trip to do everything.
Yeah. And plus also, there's times when, well, I certainly find, speak for myself, you get tired and you just want to stop and spend a day doing nothing, sitting by a river or something. And actually they turned out to be some of the most pleasurable times, don't they?
Yeah.
When you're not doing anything. So again, having a schedule that you've got to keep to is, I don't like it much.
It's not a good idea. And then sometimes the unexpected things that you find when you're travelling that you didn't even know about can turn out to be the best things.
The best things, yeah.
Yeah. So don't plan too much.
No, have a rough idea, that's all.
Yeah. And Sue T also asks, imagine it's a lovely sunny summer's day, you spot an ice cream shop, what flavour would you choose?
Well.
So should we try and guess what each other would pick? What do you think I would pick?
Something red, some sort of fruity raspberry ripple or something like that, I think.
Yeah, I'd always go for a fruity one.
I know you always pick the things that I wouldn't pick.
Like strawberries and cream, or a cherry, or a raspberry ripple. Yeah.
What about me then?
I think you would go salted caramel.
I was salted caramel or fudge, something like that, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not a great fan of chocolate or anything like that.
Like toffee or butterscotch.
Yeah, butterscotch, all of those sort of things.
Yeah.
I like those, yeah.
Yeah. Good. Alison Williams asks, apart from your vlogs, do you record your travels in other ways, such as photo albums, journals, etc., or are your memories all digital? Well, when we're away on a trip, I keep notes on my phone as an app called Notes, and I write down what we're doing every day in there, and I also attach any good photos that I take into the note.
That all used to be done manually though, didn't it?
Yeah.
At the beginning you used to
Handwrite a diary, yes. So I do that when we're away, and then also at home I keep a physical diary that I handwrite every day as to what we've been doing, and I've been doing that ever since I retired. So when I get home I transfer our digital notes into my handwritten diary. And photos, we don't actually print out any photos now, do we?
We used to, but we don't anymore.
Into photo albums. So we just back them up to Google Photos, so they're in the cloud.
Yeah. My view on it is that as you get older and God forbid you end up in a home or something, then you won't be able to have access to all those books and diaries that you left, because there wouldn't be any space for them, and so they would eventually become lost to you. Whereas, and I know that from my mum's experience, she ended up in a home and she didn't have access to any of that. And I printed off an album of old photographs for her and took them in. And to see her face, seeing what she had a fantastic memory of the past, but not of the present very much. So I think if you could get access to them all via an iPad, and hopefully you could still hang on to them a bit longer, as long as you're compos mentis enough to operate it.
That's it. So I think it's best to keep them digitally these days.
Yeah.
Debbie Spitznagel, where did you go after Norway? And Mr. Tiger 11, how long before your Denmark videos? We would love to see them before we set off on our trip. Well, after Norway, we came back through Denmark and then drove fairly quickly through Germany, Holland, Belgium, and then back into France, and spent about another 5 days in France before we came home. We filmed all our trip through Denmark, which was about 8 or 9 days.
Yeah.
But you haven't edited those yet.
I haven't edited them. When we reached Germany, I got fed up of filming, didn't I?
Yeah.
And we turned the cameras off when we reached Germany and didn't turn them on again until France. And that's something that can just happen on a trip. Sometimes you just get fed up of setting up the microphones and filming, don't you?
Just fancied a bit of time off from the filming.
So we did that.
Yeah.
As for when Denmark will be up, well, Denmark will be up at the end of this series as we sit here.
The Stately Homes series.
How many are we up to? And
well, the Stately Homes series will probably be about 10 videos.
10 or 11
10
videos.
or 11, I'd say. So depends when this video that we're doing now is going to go out, how far into that series we are.
Yeah.
And then after that will be the Denmark.
Denmark, yeah.
Yeah. Ewan Semple asks, I wipe the condensation off the windows in the van every morning, but each time I do it, I think that the seals on the edge of the windows look really solid, and I wonder how much moisture might actually get into the walls of the doors and if it's worth the bother. Let you answer that one.
I think it's worth the bother, because if you leave it, then it can run and drip onto the what do they call it, the carpet lining of the van, and it can also begin to affect the screws that they use to secure, because we've had screws go rusty, haven't we?
Yes, yeah, and Ewan has an MV200 as well.
A Sussex camper van
from
one.
Sussex camper vans. Yeah,
so I would, for that reason, I would do it.
We have had some rusty
screws. Yeah. which is a shame. You know, they really should use screws that don't rust. And if you leave that, then that rust stain can affect the carpet, can't it?
Yeah, can stain it.
We caught ours pretty early.
Yeah.
Yes, I personally, as to how much goes down into the body of the van, I'm not so sure any goes down into the body of the van. I think it's, that window is just a slab of glass glued onto the side of a cutout, isn't it? So anything, I think, will go down and eventually drip out of the window.
Outside.
Otherwise, it would fill up like a goldfish bowl.
Yes, yeah.
I'm not sure about that. It would be
trapped in there. Yeah. Sam Cooper asks, I would like more info on watching a TV in a camper, plus anyone using a ResMed 10 for sleep apnea. What do they use to power off-grid for wild camping?
Okay, well, I'll talk about the ResMed. I had to look that up, but now I know what it is. It's a device that helps you breathe more easily during sleep. And in fact, one of my mates uses one. That is mains powered. So obviously, if you were on hookup on a campsite, it wouldn't be any different to being at home. To run it, if I had to use that in our van, then depending on the wattage, I could probably run it off of a low powered inverter. And I don't know what it draws, but I wouldn't be surprised if I could run it all night quite easily on our lithium battery. Do you want to talk about TV in the van?
Well, we don't have the space for a TV.
No. So
we just use an iPad and just watch. We could watch TV if we had a good signal.
If we have good signal, you can watch live TV streaming, can't you?
For streaming, or you could always download films and things from Netflix or Prime. And if you needed more power, then I'd suggest getting a power bank.
All depending on space.
You can get small ones, but I don't.
You can. I mean, you just have to work out the power requirements of that medical device and work it out and see how long it would last. But be aware, if you're wild camping like we do, then you've still got to charge that battery back up. So that, you know, you can only do that through solar power or driving. And in this country, solar power won't help you that much.
No, but if you're driving every day, then that would help.
Yeah. Going back to the TVs, the only thing I would say, even if we had the space, I wouldn't put a TV in the van.
No.
Because we just wouldn't watch it enough.
No.
An iPad paired with a nice quality Bluetooth speaker will give you a much better experience, I think. Picture quality, etc. Right, for all of those who've kept watching, let me now tell you about that excellent new planning tool. As you can see, I've just asked it to give me a 7-day itinerary for a tour of Normandy. And as you can see in seconds, it's writing out all the key places that we could visit. And whilst it doesn't get it right all the time, it is a wonderful way to scope out a destination, to give you something to expand upon. ChatGPT is amazing, and I really do encourage you to give it a try. Right, I'm going to end this one here, but there's plenty more of your questions to come, so hit that subscribe button if you want to see those.